Senator Bernie Sanders kicked off a college tour last night at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The Democratic presidential candidate took to the stage in front of thousands to discuss major topics including climate change, student debt, and health care. Sanders also went after some of his major rivals in the 2020 race, including President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. So for more on this, let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Cara Korte. Good to see you.
Hi, Vlad. The president's a hard act to follow, so I'll do my best.
Yeah, I think you'll be more than up to the task, Cara. So during the rally, Senator Sanders referenced some of former Vice President Joe Biden's private fundraising events. I want to play a little bit of that.
I would contrast that with how my good friend, Vice President Biden, is raising money today. And I would say to him, Joe, we are not going to make the changes that we need in this country when you go to 3 fundraisers in Chicago sponsored by multimillionaires. We are going to make the changes that we need in this country when the working families of America stand up to the corporate elite, not take their money.
So, Cara, explain to our viewers who are perhaps, there are some Democrats watching and they're trying to make up their mind about which candidate is most viable for 2020 to go up against Donald Trump. Certainly, Bernie Sanders, as a Democratic socialist, is a stark difference from a traditional Democrat like Joe Biden. But what are some of the policy differences?
Well, not so much policy, but what we hear Bernie saying when he likens Vice President Biden to corporate elite, to millionaires. He's saying that Vice President Biden is beholden to this corporate elite, to wealthy fundraisers, to large corporations. So what Bernie is saying, in large contrast with Vice President Biden, is that Biden is bought and Bernie is a man of the people. So while they differentiate on policies like Medicare for all and different climate change policies, when Bernie is calling out Joe directly, most often right now is saying that he is a member of that corporate elite. He is responsible for and beholden to these large corporations.
And as you know, Cara, Senator Sanders' comments about the vice president came on the same day that his campaign announced that it had received contributions from over 1 million individual donors. So break down the significance of that number for Senator Sanders.
Right, so it goes in line with exactly what he's critiquing Biden about. Bernie is saying we have 1 million individual donors. They say that that is the grass feed for their grassroots campaign. It took them last time around in 2016, it took Bernie Sanders 9 months to reach that 1 million donor mark. This time around it took him 7. So of course he is much more of a household name, much more famous, more known than he was last time around. But the campaign is saying that this means that our grassroots are growing, they're growing strong, and already much faster than any of his Democratic competitors. He's reached 1 million donors, and also notably, he has surpassed President Trump in that number of individual donors.
All right. We know that Senator Sanders supporters are very passionate about their candidate, but he is losing ground in some polls to Senator Elizabeth Warren. She's even overtaken him in some states. Any hint how the campaign is responding to this, and what are you hearing from his supporters about the inroads that Senator Warren has been able to make?
Well, it's funny. I think a way of responding to Warren's surge is doing more of what we saw last night, actually going after Biden. So rather than trying to compete with Warren supporters, when you talk to Bernie supporters, a lot of them like Elizabeth Warren. They stay there with Bernie, but they don't mind Warren. Where they get a little bit more fired up is when it comes to Biden, who they see as a complete opposite of Bernie. So if you're in the Bernie campaign right now, you're maybe thinking, is it easier to gain support from someone our supporters do not like or someone our supporters do like? So even though Warren seems to be surging right now, keep an eye out for Bernie to continue to punch at Biden, because they believe that those voters can be siphoned off more easily than Elizabeth Warren's.
That's really interesting. Let me ask you finally about some personnel changes that have happened over in the Sanders camp. What can you tell us about that, and what does it suggest going forward?
Yeah, some recent shakeups and shifts for them at the early state level. They moved their New Hampshire state director to Massachusetts, an early state in and of itself, and in Iowa, their state policy director left the campaign. So the campaign is not saying that this is indicative of any kind of internal strife or larger problems. They're just saying that they're making changes they need to execute to win. Remember, changes like these could mean one of two things. It could mean that things are out of control and they're trying to get someone else at the helm to fix what is going wrong. But it could also mean that everyone else is focused on what they need to do to win, and everyone else is operating in the right way, and maybe just this one person is a little bit more of a lag. The campaign isn't saying which one of those two it is, but it's unclear to us right now if this is a sign of bad things or just ordinary shakeups that happen in any campaign.
All right. CBS News campaign reporter Cara Korte with some really great insight into Senator Sanders and his operation. Thank you, Cara.
Thank you, Vlad.